Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a company valuation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the privilege of discussing venture capital and startup company valuations today with Lorenzo Carver, a valuation expert in Boulder, Colorado. So why don't you give us some of your background and experience as an entrepreneur and starting various businesses, because that's really the framework with which you know also how to do valuations, but it's what you've been doing your entire career, right?
That's true. Yes. So yeah, my background for starting businesses, the first business I started was actually a construction company, which is a really, really hard business, by the way. And I didn't know anything about accounting or finance, but we had to get something called a performance bond in order to bid for contracts. So in order to do that, you had to have financial statements, which I literally did not know what it even was. But I did know computers. So I bought a software product and spit out a bunch of financial statements that I'm sure were totally like bogus, but we got the bond and that was it. So,
right.
So that's kind of how I got into, starting businesses.
You've created software, you've created financial analysis tools, like all of these types of things that have actually helped valuators do their work, essentially. Okay, so now we get into startup land. And some people don't really understand, like we'll call it emerging markets, or we'll call it, seed companies or early stage. But basically, what is a startup business from a valuation perspective or from, a business perspective?
That's a really great question. So because the term has kind of come to mean very different things in recent years. So there's a company called Y Combinator. Have you heard of them? So anybody that's dealing with startups at all should check out Y Combinator. So a gentleman named Paul Graham founded it and kind of like codified a lot of the stuff that relates to the startup world to kind of gather like a critical mass of people starting these businesses and put them in touch with people that have expertise. So when they refer to a startup, them or Techstars or any of these other incubators and the investors that put money into them, they're talking about rocket ships. So they're not talking about like, oh, let's go start a pizza shop.
Right.
Or like, oh, let's go start a construction. They're talking about this could be the next General Motors, which would have been a big thing like 10 years ago, I guess. But
right
now, like the next General Motors, that's like a fraction of Google's market cap, right? So, but
the next Amazon, maybe.
Exactly.
Right?
So yeah, so that's what they're looking for. They're looking for some stratospheric result. And so the only way that happens is something grows like rapidly, So, and that defines in a lot of ways what a startup is, something that has that ability to grow super fast. And anything that can grow that fast, obviously you're changing somebody's life, either a business's life or an individual's life, with a product or a service or, some kind of angle on the world. So I'd say that, that's a definition of a startup from, kind of the high growth perspective. But other people use the term a little differently, right? So some people would say, oh, I'm a startup, I just started. So, and I think both are applicable, but I think here today we're really talking about like the high growth version of a startup.